Imagine living in medieval Europe. A crime happens. A child is killed. The town is shocked, angry, demanding justice. Authorities gather evidence. Witnesses are called. A judge presides over the court. The accused standing in the courtroom isn't a person, it's a pig. As strange as it sounds, during the Middle Ages, animals were sometimes treated like criminals and placed on trial in real courts. These cases were recorded across Europe, especially in places like France, Switzerland, and Italy. The idea seems absurd today, but to medieval societies, it made perfect sense. People believed that the world operated under a moral order created by God. And when that order was broken, whether by a person or an animal, justice had to be carried out. One of the most famous cases happened in 1386 in the town of Falaise. A pig had attacked and killed a small child. Instead of simply killing the animal, the authorities decided to hold a formal trial. The pig was arrested and held in jail. Yes, the pig was literally imprisoned. It was then brought before a judge where witnesses described the attack. Evidence was presented. And after hearing the case, the court declared the pig guilty of murder. The punishment: execution. But the strangest part came before the sentence was carried out. The pig was reportedly dressed in human clothing, including a jacket and gloves, before the execution. Historians believe this was done to symbolize that the animal was being punished under human law. Crowds gathered to watch. For the townspeople, the trial served an important purpose. It showed that justice had been done, and it reminded everyone that breaking the law, even unintentionally, had consequences. But pigs weren't the only animals to face trial. Over the centuries, courts prosecuted cows, horses, dogs, goats, and even insects. In many cases, the trials followed the exact same procedures used for human criminals. There were judges, witnesses, official documents, and sometimes, defense lawyers. One of those lawyers would become famous for defending one of the strangest clients in legal history: a group of rats accused of destroying crops. In 1522, farmers in the town of Autun faced a major problem. Their barley crops were being destroyed by rats. The farmers were furious. Instead of setting traps or poison, they decided to take the rats to court. Yes, they literally filed a legal complaint against rats. The court assigned a defense lawyer to represent the animals. His name was Bartholomew de Chassaneuz, a young lawyer who would later become a respected legal scholar. The rats were officially summoned to appear in court. But when the court date arrived, none of them showed up, so the lawyer made an argument. He said the rats could not possibly attend the trial. Why? Because the summons had only been delivered in one village, while the rats lived across many different areas. Therefore, the notice was legally invalid. The judge agreed. So the court issued another summons. Again, the rats failed to appear. This time the lawyer made an even more creative argument. Told the judge that his clients were willing to appear in court. But there was a serious problem. The roads between their homes and the courthouse were full of cats. Cats were natural predators of rats. Traveling to court would place his clients in extreme danger. Therefore, unless the court could guarantee safe passage, the rats could not reasonably be expected to attend. The argument was so legally sound that the court had no clear solution. Eventually, the case was abandoned. The rats technically won their trial. But rodents weren't the only unusual defendants. There were also cases involving insects. In several regions, farmers brought legal cases against swarms of pests, destroying their crops. Since insects couldn't be executed individually, the church sometimes stepped in. Priests would perform ceremonies to excommunicate the insects. In other words, the insects were symbolically banished from the community and from God's protection. These trials may sound ridiculous today, but they reveal something fascinating about medieval thinking. People believed the entire world was part of a moral system governed by divine law. Animals weren't seen as mindless creatures. They were viewed as participants in society capable of causing harm and therefore capable of being judged. Another famous case happened in 1457 in France. A sow and her 6 piglets were accused of killing a child. The mother pig was found guilty and executed, but the piglets were acquitted. Why? Because the court ruled that they were too young to understand their actions. In other words, the judges applied the same legal idea we use today. It's the concept of criminal intent. Over time, these strange trials slowly disappeared. As science advanced and society entered the Enlightenment, people began to understand animal behavior differently. Animals acted on instinct, moral choice. By the 1700s, animal trials had mostly faded away, but the historical records remain. They remind us of a time when pigs could be dressed like people and executed by court order, when rats had defense lawyers, and when insects could be excommunicated by priests. It may seem unbelievable now, but for centuries, this was considered perfectly normal justice. History is full of strange and fascinating moments like this. Stories that sound completely unbelievable, but actually happened. If you enjoyed learning about the medieval trials where animals were sentenced to death by judges, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more bizarre and fascinating stories from history.